Hey, Hill Squad. No, it's not Maria Menounos. It's Mr. Maria Menounos coming to you today. Great two-part interview with Dr. Shefali, author of many best-selling books and a new one on parenting that really moved me as an aspiring parent, but I think it's also going to move you as well, inform you, as we say in Boston, and educate you. She had many, many great quotes, by the way, in these interviews, but I'll share one. Love without consciousness becomes need and dependency, and instead it becomes control in the name of love. So you just have to sit on that, Kelsey Alexandra Meyer.
Dang, her quotes always hit. You're like, man.
Yeah, well, there's love. I think so much without consciousness. And consciousness has been around a long, long time, but I think to a select, very, very small group of people, but greater need for it with the greater the technology.
Truly.
And the things that have been going on, in our world. There's a great, she opens her, it's interesting. She describes herself as a Western psychologist who implements Eastern philosophies, which I love because, I've heard from practitioners that I trust say, when it comes to mental and physical health care, East meets West is best. So I love that she applies both, but she also is creative. So a lot of the chapters open with these poems and these little proverbs she writes. And so I want to share one and hopefully will whet your appetite. The bond with your children is like no other. It will do both, give you superpowers and break your heart at the same time. It will both expand you to an infinite limitlessness and crush you to a pulp of nothingness at the same time. It will ignite and inspire your creativity and imagination and destroy your fantasies and dreams at the same time. It will be your soul's biggest teacher and transformer and your ego's ultimate nemesis and detonator at the same time. It is here to enliven and elevate you to the greatest heights and yank and humble you to your lowest levels. Only this bond has these powers, and it's the only bond for which you will allow this degree of powerlessness. So
I have to say, I sent that to my mom and she goes, yep, that's true.
I think he has said enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I think with that, we go into part one of a very in-depth interview. I jumped around a little bit, forgive me, but when I went down the rabbit hole of her books and the other books she's written, not just the one she's promoting, and these interviews, I don't know, just I needed all the answers. So anyway, this is what you get when you get the backup quarterback, people. I'm not the starter. All I have to do is keep us 500. If you're a Patriots fan, That's all they had to do. They had 4 games without Tom Brady. They just had to play 500 ball to win the Super Bowl. So, okay, so we just have to, win as many as we lose. With that, Kelsey Alexandra Meyer, let's go to the interview with Dr. Shefali. Okay, so Dr. Shefali, as I was saying, as we were getting warmed up here, we are going to talk about your book, The Parenting Map. And for me, I'm an aspiring parent, soon to be, I hope. I found the book very helpful. And I just want to say, even whatever we go over today in this book, I do want to tell everyone that no matter what you get from the book, there's nothing like having the actual physical book with you, because this is going to be it's a great reference tool to continually refer to, because even for me, going through the book and someone who's about to be a dad, I'm hoping, great stuff, but I'm going to need to go back to this to continue to refer to it. And, for me, I'm deprogramming 50 some odd years of how we were taught to do what we do. Anyway, before we get into the book, and the other thing I was saying to you was like, just going through all your other interviews, you made Oprah Winfrey cry. Hello. Today's Oprah cry, and you just had so many different fascinating statements that you dropped. And I want to pursue some of them before we get into the parenting book. if it's okay with you. Okay. So I even want to read some quotes to you, and then maybe we can play off them a little bit. Our minds are good at self-preservation. We are good at indulgence and self-comfort when the consciousness quotient is what we really need.
Right. So, we are always wired to survive and to find that place where we feel, is the most homeostatic comfort. We're wired to do that. That makes sense. But what we need in today's world, because there is so much material indulgence, is to be very careful, because we're not pushing ourselves. We're not really taking as many risks as, say, our ancestors took. So now, because we're physically so comfortable, we kind of can get into this lull of mental stagnation and not evolve and not grow. And consciousness is really now our most prized commodity to allow ourselves to evolve. We don't have to, make the shelter and get out of the rain and fight the saber-tooth, and animals or the mammoths. We are comfortable physically. So now we need to find ourselves pushing ourselves emotionally so we can keep growing and evolving. And especially as parents, because our children are evolving in front of our eyes, we cannot dare to remain stagnant. We have to keep evolving. And that's what conscious parenting is about, that the parent needs to parent themselves and evolve as much, if not more, than their children are.
But I even think, even if you're not going to be a parent, I think that what you're saying just speaks to everybody in general. I don't think you have to be a parent, let's say, to be fulfilled in this world, but certainly I think all of us need to get back to consciousness. And I'm guilty. I'm a massive consumer, and I trust that I am, but I think you're right. And it just seems like everything is so much easier than it was years past. What do you think it's done to us as a people? The fact that we don't have to hunt and gather and survive, especially in this country.
Yes. And not only do we not have to hunt and gather and survive, we've gone the other extreme where we are phenomenally overindulged and overentitled. And now we cannot even tolerate a little bit of anxiety. And I know I'm speaking in broad, extreme terms.
Yes, of course. No, of course.
But for the most part, what I'm seeing in my clinical practice is an increased intolerance for discomfort, for anxiety. So because everything's on our fingertips and every app and every Uber and everything's coming to our doorstep, literally into our homes, we don't have to even venture forth and deal with the traffic and deal with the waiting in line, that now our tolerance for anxiety, for discomfort, for hard work, for sweating, for sitting in that unknown is becoming our intolerance is so high. And that's why mental health crisis is on the rise. And our kids are suffering from great anxiety about being anxious. The other day I was with a young adult, and I had to teach him, it's okay to be uncomfortable. It's okay to not love every part of yourself. It's okay you're not perfect. Because technology is giving us this illusion that we can fix every problem now in our lives, from our earlobes to our ankles, literally and metaphorically, that now we are not able to embrace imperfection, embrace, just the ordinary, embrace the average. These are anathema now to us, and it's grossly undermining our mental well-being, because life is imperfect. We are terribly flawed and limited, and as we should be. We should not be reaching the zenith of perfection. That is an illusion, but we're chasing it, and that's what is so dangerous now.
Isn't it an irony that all of the technology and provision to make our life less stressed, but then it's creating more stress and anxiety?
It is the most perfect paradox of them all. But we have to understand the relentless craving to make life perfect means we are already troubled. There's something fundamentally do you know about us that we think we are so audacious, so arrogant to think that we must make life perfect? That is insanity in and of itself.
Were we, Dr. Shefali, were we always like this? Do you think, at least in the last 200 years, when we can have more access to history and records, I mean, do you think we were always like this?
I think we were not always like this, but we were trending toward it, and we didn't have the stop button. And the last 30 years have taken us over the precipice into the abyss because there's no stop button now. I mean, we do not need to have every version of every new thing all the time. We are now we're at the end of the other side of progress, which is now, again, destruction, right? So it's endless cycles of destruction, progress, but now we are on the other side of progress. We were doing really good and we should have stopped like 15 years ago. We should have just pressed pause, but there's no pause button, and there's no end to the oceans we will destruct, and no end to the rainforests we will destroy, and no end to the perfection we will seek in our own bodies and our own appearance. You're seeing it on social media now. This hunger, this insatiable craving to be seen. Do you see me? Do you see me? Do you see me? Is on some, just some volcanic high, and it needs to stop. And what it's doing is it's eroding present moment presence, present moment connection, direct eye contact, direct moment by moment deep bonding between humans. We're isolating ourselves. We can go to every part of the globe without leaving our home, but that's a problem because these are not two-dimensional things. These are real life experiences we should push ourselves to have, because the growth is in the travel, the growth is in the process, the growth is in the waiting and the working hard and achieving something because of process, not because of flicking a button. So we're losing all this, and we're teaching our children to lose all these milestones which are key to their development, and we're eroding their sense of esteem. Yesterday I was with my daughter and she was telling me how her friends, it's a culture now, she's 20 years old, to be on every pill possible. If you can't sleep, there's a pill. If you're not happy, there's a pill. If you need more attention, you can buy it. I mean, everything can be bought and swallowed, but then we're losing out on the beauty of the process, because that's where growth happens.
I remember someone, my mother-in-law, we were at a funeral service one time, and the person who was experiencing the biggest loss was just a zombie. And she clearly was on some kind of pill or pills. And my mother-in-law said to me, she's a very wise old Greek lady, and she said, this isn't good. She needs to be able to experience this. She's sad. It's okay. She's sad. But her being like this, probably not so good.
Right. So we are always seeking to bypass discomfort. Part of it is that wiring. We do want to get out of the rain and not be attacked by the leopard. But now we've gone so far in that we are literally bypassing present moment experiences. And you don't see it as drastically and as extremely as the parenting process, which is why I write about it. And I talk about conscious parenting, because without that bond, the conscious parent-child bond, you will have no other foundation for other relationships or even just existing. So we humans are also wired for social connection. We used to live in tribes and sing around the fireplace, and not to be nostalgic around that, but there was that element of deep social bonding that is getting seriously eroded. And interpersonal connection is at an all-time low. It's declining because we're getting more ensconced in these virtual realities. And with our little smartphone and our little tablet, before, the TV was bad enough when you and I were growing up, right? We were addicted to the TV, but at least it was in the family room and everyone could see what you were doing and everyone could participate. And there was a pause button, right? It wasn't endless streaming all the time, 24/7. And it wasn't isolating. It was communal. So we're losing out on all this, and our children are suffering. I can tell you in my practice, every parent I have, one after the other, is talking about, how do I manage my kids' screen addiction? How do I manage their confusion? How do I manage their anxiety and their suicidality? It's not just anxiety now. It's self-harm, self-loathing, self-hatred, suicidality.
I have a friend who's a doctor who now can tell me the difference between a child that has access to a smartphone and blue light and one that doesn't.
Wow. Yeah.
Which just blows my mind. Okay, here's the one thing I see different with parenting that I actually think is a good thing is I see a lot of parents now, they say it takes a village. I see a lot of parents now have become friends and they all kind of work together. From what I'm seeing from as an outsider, purely, I confess. Whereas, my parents didn't really know my friends' parents, maybe barely, if anything, and now I see that they do. But I also, when I hear the moms and the dads talking, I feel like they're helping each other out a little bit. So I think just a little ray of hope, because by the way, I'm with you. I'm petrified where this is going. I say to the next generation, listen, my time's coming to an end. I'm going to get out of this okay. I feel for Kelsey's generation and under, I just say, guys, where this is going is very scary. And when you're 50 or 60, if you make it there. So I'm with you on that. But I am seeing, at least parents are a little more involved. But are you seeing that, or is that more of their just, unfortunately, the narcissism and the controlling? Is it more about that and less about community?
Yeah, I mean, there may be slivers of communities that are coming together in awareness that this is toxic for our children. But for the most part, mainstream, I see greater social media addiction, greater isolation, and greater disconnection. When I was raising my daughter, it was hard enough to be present. I had to train myself, and I meditated. I'm a psychologist. I didn't have social media in my back pocket. And I was still having a hard time connecting with this little being and giving this little being all the emotional nourishment that they need. Human children need, a lot of deep emotional connection and presence. And it was hard enough back then. I can only, imagine really, and it's quite a nightmare to imagine how today's young mom or dad finds the capacity to stay present when they are constantly being pulled by the social media on their phone, which is so addictive. I pick up my phone all the time. I'm uncomfortable if my phone is in the other room. The moment I have a pause and I need to just sit, I pick up my phone. So if I'm doing that and you're doing that, and we had full childhoods of free time, playtime, restlessness, imagination, creativity, imagine what today's millennial young mom would be doing or dad. So children will lose out because children need their parents to be present. That is a vital ingredient, a psychological ingredient of young children. So if they don't get that, then they are going to be lacking that and will go out into the world forever seeking that connection.
I think I saw in another interview you recommended with social media not allowing until they're 14.
Yes, because the brain cannot take in all this information. The brain cannot process. And, I was quote unquote lucky that in my generation, children got smartphones it only came out when my daughter was already 14. But let me tell you, the moment I gave it to her, she was swallowed. Like I did not see her again, so to speak.
What is it about? Is there something, have you looked into this, Dr. Shefali? Is there something in the technology where a 1-year-old knows exactly what buttons to push? It's crazy. Have you noticed this with,
Yes.
I've seen.
They are amazing because, but you have to understand, these young children, right, under the age of 5, are watching the parents be so enamored by the screen, right? The parent is laughing, the parent is fixated, the parent is ignoring the kid for what is on the screen. So obviously that, if you leave a cookie and you're eating your own cookies, but you leave the cookie on the table, the kid will come and take the cookie. This social media is that for the kid. They're like, what is that candy that my parents are eating all the time because it makes them so happy? I want it. And kids learn so fast. They do. They learn all behavior, especially bad behavior, so fast. But they don't know it's bad because they're seeing that the parents love this. So they were like, give me some of that.
That looks fun.
Yeah.
No, but sorry to, wow. Can you talk about how, you've said before in interviews how narcissistic we are as a species. And it does seem as though we really just came to the planet to pollute it. I mean, let's face it, right? But has the level of narcissism grown in the last couple of decades, do you think? Or this is something we've always suffered from?
Yes. So, I think because the human brain is evolved to be so innovative and so quote unquote clever, it has mistaken that for being wise, because we're not wise. So I just want to say we're Homo sapiens, not Homo wise. Okay. So I think in the last 10, 15 years, what we've seen is the vehicle for our narcissism, which was always there, to now come out full flare. Like, and not to offend anyone, but when Trump came to office, we didn't know that there were so many people who were racist. We didn't know. So Trump provided that platform, right? And I'm not getting into a debate about it. It just is what it is. So in the same way, social media has provided the platform for our narcissism to come out on full freaking display. I mean, it is on blast now. I mean, people are literally unable to have a meal or go for a haircut without posting it on social media. They need to be seen by freaking strangers. And the disease to please and the disease to be seen is just now on this all-time time rampage. So it was always there, but I think now we've been given the platform. The camera is with us 24/7. So now we can see ourselves 24/7 and show the world how we are. It's really sad. Before it was just grandma looking at your photo album and a few cousins and you called it quits. But now we want to be seen by the world. And then we feel, attached to other people's views, people who we don't know. So talk about the need for external validation. It was really bad enough just the way when you and I were growing up, where your friend's, sister said something and you came home and said, if Beth's sister said something to me, mommy, but it was contained. And now it's like everybody's sister can say something about you. And then you're deeply impacted by it. You're going to be a parent, hopefully, and you're going to be horrified. So I'm just warning you.
I mean, I've had the pleasure of having about 2,000 20 to 30-year-olds work for me in the last decade. And I'm already pretty horrified by that. And it wasn't, and listen, it's not their fault. It's the parenting, and we're going to go deep on that. You really helped me. Your book really helped me understand that a lot further, and I want to get deeper into that. But I was going to say, it's like I feel like back in the day, before social media and before technology, a lot of the stuff that you'd spout out today, your opinions, it would happen at a water cooler at work. So you'd go and you might bitch and moan to whatever, your coworkers at the water cooler. And then you drive home, and if you were still upset, you might give someone the middle finger if they cut you off. And that was it. But today with social media now, it's beyond the water cooler. You have now the ability to take that phone and you think go out to potentially go out to millions and millions of people. And it's just something we can't resist. I love this.
But also the anonymity is the part which is the cowardice, because you're hiding behind anonymity. So therefore you see the audacity, right? And the trolling that happens.
The mask falls off,
because you're anonymous, and that's just creating this cowardice that is really insufferable, because you should be able to either talk to the person directly or have no opinion in their lives. Simple. That's really the only two rules you should have. Do I know them? And if I don't know them, I need to stay out of it, because I don't have the capacity to tell the person directly. And therefore, how dare I tell the person anything at all? And it's just creating this generation of audacity, and also people who don't have degrees are now experts, and everyone's an expert, right?
Everyone. But listen, I don't even know if it's a generation. I see people in their 50s and 60s are engaging in all this.
Oh, it's not toxic, the young generation.
Yeah, I think it's just everybody. Well, let's all share the blame.
Yes, it's you and I, and it's our generation, like I said, because we were narcissistic, we have been narcissistic, we have been, ridiculously cowardly, and now we're coming out. It's coming out. It's being seen. We just didn't have the way to do it. And the moment we did, we are participating more than the millennials. So we should take full responsibility, our generation. We
100%. Yeah. 100%. It's funny, a couple other quotes, and then we're going to get to some like solutions to all this because she has that as well. I love this one. Our culture today has made us happy, hungry. Do you remember saying that?
Sure.
Can you speak to it?
Yeah, it's this, again, this fragility with which we approach our world now, that we must be happy. We must be catered to. We must be served to. Everything needs to be perfect. Our bodies cannot have cellulite or wrinkles or age or anything natural is now being shunned upon and degraded and derided. And similarly, with our life experience, we cannot tolerate any sort of mediocrity. Average is a bad word. God forbid your child is called average. My kid is average. I'm average. And I'm because that's exactly who we're supposed to be. And even if you have some, great talent to sing or to win an Olympic medal, that doesn't mean that we are still not average. Overall, we're all average human beings. And this unacceptance of that has created a culture of being hungry, starved, really, and created actually a perversion for what should have been normal and natural, which is ordinary life experiences, where you are allowed to be all sorts of feelings, not just craving this obsessive happiness.
Yeah, you even said, sometimes if we look at someone who, let's say, isn't in great shape or is older, and we're saying, oh, you're beautiful the way you are. You were even saying, like, that's even messy to be, it is just, let it just be what it is.
Right. This toxic positivity, oh, I have to say something about it. I have to say it's beautiful. Or I have to say it's amazing. Enough already. We're doing it out of some lack. We don't need to say anything, and I give examples of, when young children comment on their parents' imperfections, the parent cannot just sit with it. We have to say, no, I am beautiful. I am this. Or, I give a story in the book where my daughter talks about my underarms and, how flabby they are, and how I wanted to say, no, they're not flabby. They're beautiful. And then I shut up because I was like, okay, so what if they're flabby? It's okay to have flabby underarms, for heaven's sake. If somebody says, if a kid comes to a parent's face and says, Mom, you have wrinkles. The other day, my daughter said, you have white hair. I wanted to defend. No, I don't. Yes, I do. It's okay. I don't need to say, oh, I have white hair and it's beautiful. I can just say I have white hair, period. Or I have wrinkles, period. But this toxic need to overcompensate and call everything beautiful is that hungry, happy, that hunger for happiness that I was talking about.
This is another one, talking about instant gratification, delayed gratification. And this was a great quote, that today, nothing is amazing anymore. Do you remember saying that?
Tell me more.
Yeah, well, you said nothing is amazing anymore because of instant gratification.
Oh, I see. We've lost the beauty, 100%. If you take this generation who's been exposed to everything online, to Paris or to London, they would have seen it all already. So that beauty of the arrival at the destination has been gone because that process has been robbed from us. We have already seen everything online. So arriving at the destination is no longer a stupendous experience because we've robbed children of that process. They've seen everything already online. They've been exposed to everything on social media. So now there's no more, anticipation and excitement of the journey. Everyone just wants to, arrive there in a picture perfect world without going through the process.
And it's the process. I know it's cliche, right? But it's the journey and not the destination that what it's really more about.
Correct. If our children are not waiting in line to eat at a restaurant and the restaurant arrives at their doorstep, so to speak, you've actually robbed them of the joy of that food. You think you've given it to them even faster, but you've actually taken down the beauty of it.
I had a parent say this to me too, when we were talking about what his inheritance was going to be. And he said something to the effect of, when I'm gone, and I hope it's not for a long, long time, of course they're going to have what I have. But he's like, I don't want to clue them in onto it now, and I don't want to over provide for them because and this was a great quote. He said, I don't want to rob them of their journey.
Exactly. So that's what we are doing in this over coddling.
We're robbing that, right? So when you're not waiting in line even for Disney, if you get the passes that have you cut the whole line, right? I've never heard that before in that way, where you're actually hurting them. You're robbing them. You're not just spoiling them, but you're robbing them.
We are robbing our children. And the whole premise of conscious parenting is to give back, bequeath back to your children their right to their life experience, even if you don't like it, you don't agree with it, it's driving you crazy. You did not have children to control them and dominate them. You had children. Really, the sacred purpose of having children, if there is one, it is just to allow them to manifest themselves the best way they can, which means you're constantly giving the baton of their inner governance back to them. But that takes self-discipline from the parent, because our ego is so out of control. We snatch that baton, which is their right to their own existence and their own mood, their own feelings. So if their life experience happens to get them heartache, that's their life experience. Don't rob them of it. Of course, don't put it on them artificially. But if they have a breakup with boyfriend number 1, all the way to boyfriend number 7, that's their life experience. Allow them to go through that pain, because that's something for them to learn. How can you decide what they need to learn in their life experience? They are temperamentally different. They are epigenetically different. They have their right to their experience, Don't rob them of it. And we are constantly robbing our children of their life.
And not to mention, you're not going to be alive forever. So when are they going to have to deal with these issues on their own? And that's why I'm really scared for this generation, because the parents are still so deeply involved. There's another great quote. Go ahead. There's another great quote that I think relates to this that you said that I wanted you to expand on a little more. But please say what you're going to say, Dr. Shefali.
It's our anxiety that robs our children of their anxiety, because we never truly learn to handle our own imperfections and embrace our limitations, because we are so mired in culture's dictates of perfectionism and happiness and success, that because it's not integrated within us, we haven't resolved our own pain around that. That's why we rob our children of their pain around their imperfections, their limitations. I have parents coming to me saying, oh, my 8th grader doesn't like her nose. Do you think I should get her a nose job? And I go, it's okay for her to not like her nose. I'll give you 10 things I don't like about my body right now. Doesn't mean I can go and machine gun fix it. I need to live with it. Now, sure, you can tweak it here and there, but not when you're in 8th grade. You need to have at least some period of your life where you learn to be okay with the not okayness, because that builds a muscle that is invaluable.
I'm writing this stuff down. Sorry. Learn to be okay with the not okayness. Our anxiety robs our kids of theirs. Here's another great one. Success does not bring joy. It just brings success.
Yes. We've put so much value on the wrinkle-free, high achievement bank money in the bank account, right? So much value on our real estate, on the number of cars in the driveway. Literally, we are missing the point. That's why, and I don't need to knock America down, because I adore what it stands for.
Right. I'm with you. Listen, I'm a big patriot. And since I've traveled the last few years, I'm like, we just lost our way. And I get it. I get yes, it's gone. The consumerism.
Because of over materialism, because of our focus on the external, we have lost our inner channel, our inner GPS, our inner connection. And that's why this country is overly medicated and is leading the way, in over medication and over technology, over materialism. This is the wrong way. We are going the wrong way. And conscious parenting, and because it is deeply steeped in Eastern mysticism, it has principles of the joy to living that is missing in today's world. We are more miserable today than we ever were. Go figure, right? You have to stop and say, how is that possible? How is it that we are the most indulged that we've ever been? We have technology to fix everything, and anxiety is on the rise. Not just anxiety, it is suicidality. How is it that
the suicide numbers are astronomical? It's 1 to 5% in the last 20 years would be a lot, but it's well beyond that and not slowing down. And it's funny, I was talking to a researcher yesterday, someone who's into scientific research, and he's recruiting the new classes of doctors to come join his team. And he said something that was really powerful. He said, we're looking for young people who want to change the world, but not young people who are mad at the world. And the problem is most of them coming in are mad at the world. And then when you take a step back, you say, wait, you've had a $1,200 phone in your back pocket since you were 13. If you think of what you have here versus everywhere else, but yet you're mad, you're angry, you have anxiety, all of these things have led to this. It's very troubling.
Really it's us, it's my generation of parents, really, and then not to place blame, but to place responsibility and accountability. I began writing about conscious parenting because I personally was horrified by my own parenting. I was horrified at myself. I had such expectations, and I'm just warning you because you've not yet ruined anyone's life. I had
not
such
yet. Oh, but give me time.
Yes, no.
I'm going to do a great job.
Good.
I'm going to be phenomenal. Listen, of all the parents who ruin the kids, I'm going to be right there. Trust.
Yeah, so I was horrified. I never thought I would be one of those, right? Of course, because I was so arrogant. And within like 2 years, I had made so many mistakes, yelled at my 2-year-old. And I knew this is madness. But it was because I was set up for it. I'm making the excuse that I was set up. And the setup was this parenting paradigm that said, you, the parent almighty, are in charge and you have complete control, unmitigated access. No one will supervise you. You don't even need a license. You just go ahead. You don't need any course in psychology. Go ahead and take this most valuable human being and fuck up their lives. And so I did. And it was only when my daughter really pushed back on me, because she was not, quote unquote, the ultimate good kid. She dared to have a voice and push back at me. She taught me how fucked up I was. And then I came to my knees and wrote, it came to me. I was like, wow, why doesn't anyone talk about this? Why doesn't anyone call parents on their gargantuan, insatiable ego? So I took the challenge, and I've received so much pushback, I cannot tell you.
Have you? Tell me what would be, because when I read the book, I'm like, wait, this all makes, I told you in the pre-interview, this makes so much sense to me. Where would the pushback be?
Oh my goodness. I have pushback every day. The conscious parenting should be on everybody's bedside, but it's not, because parents are not ready to see themselves in the mirror. And you are not yet a parent, so you can't even talk yet. When you become a parent, I want you to.
No, I just deal with all your brats. That come to me after.
But you've been on this journey, yeah? So you do this for a living. This is where you are steeped. But for the average parent, this is my 4th parenting book for a reason. I'm writing the how-to manual on conscious parenting now for a reason, because even though I wrote 3 phenomenal books before, it didn't help as much as this one is going to help. And I remember Oprah saying, but people need the how-to. And this is the how-to map now, because parents need step by step. Otherwise, they will not do it. And even now, they may not do it. You know why? Because the ego of the parent is too entrenched. Culture has told the parent that you get to do whatever you want with your kid. It's your kid. And so to teach parents that they need to...
And therefore also your responsibility, right? And then their feelings are your responsibility. Their success is your responsibility. And then you've mitigated that success, right? You quantify whatever that success is compared to everyone. Oh, it's a spiral. And by the way, I will say that if I were a parent in my 20s or 30s, forget it. I would have been a mess. I'm so glad the universe had other plans for me, because I would never be able to do it.
Yes, and I'm 50 now, and I wish if wishes were horses, beggars would ride, but I wish I could do it all over again. But I also am compassionate with myself because I could only do what my consciousness offered. And I teach parents, you have to be compassionate. This is not your fault. It's been coming down the generation for pike, down the pike for generations. And it's not your fault. This is about ancestral healing. This is about generational pain. But can you please now disrupt the pattern? Can you be the one who changes the present moment of your entire family script? And that's the beauty, that we get to disrupt the pattern when we wake up. And it takes a lot of courage, but that's what my books teach parents how to do.
Hey, Heal Squad, that wraps our part 1 with Dr. Shefali. Please be sure to stay tuned for part 2, where we discuss what, Kelsey?
Really go into the ego and the ego that plays a role in parenting. That kind of blew my mind, Kev. She really breaks down
new ways of parenting, right? I was going to say new ways of parenting.
New ways of parenting, and how, talking about just like what she believes is the way and like the conscious way to do it, which I just find fascinating. It makes me terrified to even have a child in 20 years.
I don't think that was the purpose, but yeah, you guys will have to check it out and let us know what you think.
This podcast and all related content published or distributed by or on behalf of Maria Menounos or mariamenounos.com is for informational purposes only and may include information that is general in nature and that is not specific to you. Any information or opinions expressed or contained herein are not intended to serve as or replace medical advice, nor to diagnose, prescribe, or treat any disease, condition, illness, or injury, and you should consult the healthcare professional of your choice regarding all matters concerning your health, including before beginning any exercise, weight loss, or healthcare program. If you have or suspect you may have a healthcare emergency, please contact a qualified healthcare professional for treatment. Any information or opinions provided by a guest expert or host featured within website or on company's podcast are their own, not those of Maria Menounos or the company. Accordingly, Maria Menounos and the company cannot be responsible for any results or consequences or actions you may take based on information or opinions.